2025 presidential elections in Cameroon is gathering steam as candidates lay down the groundwork for the official start of campaigns. Following the pre-election litigations, candidates have intensified meetings with the base. The aim, of course, is to get in contact with potential voters in a bid to woo them to their respective political programs. With less than 50 days to the October 12 presidential polls, we are receiving one of the candidates. With him, we shall be hearing his motivation behind his quest to seek the nation's top seat, as well as his political vision for the country. Stay with us. Our guest is a Cameroonian political figure and civil society activist who was born after the current president, Paul Biya, took over power in 1982. He is a former civil society member and has focused on youth empowerment, peace, democracy throughout his career. He is the executive director of the Network for Solidarity, Empowerment and Transformation for All, New Seta, an organization that works on youth policy advocacy and inclusive governance in Cameroon. He is also a co-founder and chairman of the African Movement for Democracy, a network of youth leaders and activists. He has been involved in promoting democratic values and has participated in various programs across the globe aimed at empowering young people to become politically engaged. He is the second youngest presidential candidate for, he is the second youngest presidential candidate and the flag bearer of the Liberal Alliance Party, known in French as PAL, in the upcoming 2025 presidential elections in Cameroon. Join me to welcome Ateki Seta Caxton to the program Indepth. Hello, sir. Thank you very much for talking to us.
The pleasure is mine. I want to really thank you so much for the opportunity to just exchange with you and share our vision about Cameroon. This time around, I think you can see, like you're announcing, it's a time where people are preparing for the campaigns, and I really appreciate the opportunity to just exchange with Cameroonians, share with them what we want to do, but also to say we're not coming from nowhere, because I think you mentioned a while ago that I'm coming from the civil society, but to say that I already resigned from the civil society, I'm no longer the executive. The former civil society. Yeah, so I just wanted to correct that. And so but thank you so much for this opportunity.
Yeah, just like you said, over the years you have been an advocacy voice for peace, democracy, and youth empowerment. Now, why have you decided to transition from a candidate to a frontline contender, this time not for any kind of job, but for the top seat, the presidency?
The reasons are many, but I could tell you that the things that we have, it's a decision that you take not lightly. It's a very, very profound decision. And this decision is taken based on the fact that today, Cameroon could become better. In fact, Cameroon deserves better. That's the slogan of my campaign. And there are many, many experiences that Cameroonians have today that they don't merit. In fact, that they don't deserve. Because you would find that the state of roads that we drive on, the kind of hospitals that we access to, sometimes if they are even available, the kind of water that we drink, everything you look at, it has a challenge. And to me, when you look at these things and you don't feel an urge to do something about it, then I mean you're not probably living in the country, because there's no one who can have this kind of experience and just live comfortably as though these things don't matter. For me, I think I've actually worked in the civil society, tackled many questions on politics, done advocacy for civil society, for young people, and I hear them every day. These people tell me about their challenges. They tell me about their needs. They tell me about their hopes, and I know that it's just the right thing to do, to come from this sector where you have interacted sufficiently with these people, and you say you are bringing that, you're embodying what they have experienced, and you have been exposed to it, and you're bringing in this field to say, we are going to make something happen about these things. I believe that if I get into this space and I get elected as the president, these hopes are going to be translated into reality. These hopes, I mean, the dreams. There is a wonderful writer called Warren Bennis who says, leadership is a capacity to transform dreams into reality. These people have dreams. but these dreams are still just, idle, they're idle dreams because they have not been translated into action, or into reality. I'm here to translate those dreams into reality. I'm also, impassioned to some extent by the frustrations that I myself feel about some of the initiatives that I've taken. I've advocated for the lowering of the voting age in this country. Many years on this campaign, nothing has happened. I have a law that I propose on access to information for people like, journalists like you.
Of course, it should be noted that you have trained well over 300 journalists.
Journalists and developed laws. This law on access to information is ready. If I get elected on the 12th of October, that's one of the first laws. I don't even need to work on it. I just need to enact it because I have already proposed it and I work with members of parliament to structure it in the way that Cameroonian laws are developed. So, but in the meantime, that law is not yet validated, and you continue to go through the ordeal that you go through in order to be able to access information that can help you better inform our people. One of the basic levels of participation in public affairs is that you are informed. Because if you participate without being informed, it is just going to be some kind of, I would say, you're swinging swipes of the hammer into anywhere. Whereas if you had, clear information about how your intervention should look like, what you're aiming at, because you're informed, you know what you're talking about, I think it permits your interventions or your action and participation to become more meaningful, more effective, than to be this kind of thing where it looks like we're swinging in the dark because this information is kept away from us. So I'm, to one extent, animated by the frustrations that I personally feel about these projects that I've worked on. I've written to 180 members of parliament concerning the voting age. I mean, it's not yet happened. I've written to the president twice about this, no reply. So when you see that you're in a system where the voices of citizens are very difficult to listen to, at some point you have to make the bold decision to come out, and say, we have to take the bull by the horns. We have to get into the system. We have to be able to try to make these differences happen in the lives of people. And we have to be serious about it. And this is why I'm here in this race. I'm here in this race because I've heard the cries of people. I've worked with them. I understand what they're going through. And I'm here to say, let us change this thing together. And that is why I'm in this race.
All right, now, what is one core value you believe that Cameroon needs, and how does your candidacy embodies that value?
I think Cameroon really today needs respect. Something as simple as that. To respect one another, amongst all the core values that we can bring on board, love, peace, justice, but respect is the key, because sometimes you feel that somebody who respects themselves would understand what it means so that they can respect you. Somebody who lies to you doesn't respect you. But we've seen situations where our leaders tell us lies. They lie to us that things have returned to normal in the Anglophone regions. I'm just from there, I'm from doing a tour there. There's nothing like that. Things have not returned to normal. They lie to us that children who are killed in Gabon, or those that are killed in the far north, by our people, they say it happened in Mali. This is all lies. And I feel that if we respect ourselves and respect one another, we will not tell lies to ourselves. We will look at each other in the eye and say, it is time for us to sit down and talk. Because if we don't respect one another, what we do is that we despise the claims that people are making. When people are complaining that there is something that is not going, something that things are not going, as we would like to say in Cameroon, but since we don't respect them, we just brush their claims aside, and this is the thing that has brought us to where we are today. So respect is key. If we respected one another, we would not have chiefs, even overseeing villages where people are being chased away from to say, allez chez vous. These kind of things show that we don't even respect one another in this country. We don't respect ourselves. If we really believe that somebody, just due to the fact that they're a human being, they deserve a little bit of respect for their human dignity, and you chase them out of your places, this is not the kind of Cameroon that we want to build. So for me, respect is a very key and foundational thing. And I believe that it begins with each and everybody to respect themselves and then be able to respect the other, because you cannot, if you respected us, you will not tell us lies as a government agent. If you respected us, you will not allow crisis to rogue us for 8 years and there's nothing that is done about it. If you respected us, You will not allow, challenges that go on in terms of the kind of roads that we drive on. The roads are too bad, and people drive in very difficult conditions to access their villages. If you respected them, you will not allow them to do that. But today, there's a culture of I would say, derision that has invaded our society, and this comes even from the top, where we show no respect for citizens. What they're saying, their claims, their cries, nobody hears them. Teachers are saying that honor, trust, support, nobody hears them. Medical officers, they organize protests. They say that they want to get their conditions improved. They take their leaders and fling them into punitive transfers in distant corners of this country. That is not respect. That is not respect. It is a culture of denigration, that has invaded the space. And I think we need to be able to come back to just that basic value. And this is what I incarnate today. Yeah, because I'm here because, I respected this invitation. I honored this invitation, and I know how important it is to honor and respect people for what they do. Yeah.
All right, you just spoke moments ago about the feeling of frustration, particularly about the youth. Some will even use the word disenfranchisement.
Yes.
Now, you were born after President Paul Biya came to power in 1982, and you yourself have some frustrations which you have aired as a young man. Now, how do you plan to build trust amongst the youths, particularly at a time when there's been so much talk about voter apathy, people who refuse to vote? The statistics are there. In the 2018 presidential elections, barely 3 million people voted out of about 7 million registered voters. How do you plan to build trust so that these youths who feel frustrated can be interested in the electoral process by October 12th?
Yeah, trust is something, and it is something that is a feeling that you have when you expect something to have a particular result, but it fails to have. Or, in fact, let me put it this way: if you trust an institution, the idea is that that institution is going to do just what you want it to do. If that institution fails to do what you want it to do, then your trust for it diminishes. And it's the same thing with a system. The purpose of a system is what that system does. You cannot say that the purpose of a system is to do what that system constantly fails to do. And no matter the goodwill and the intentions of those who are promoting the system, if that system doesn't do what it's meant to do, then you cannot say that that is the purpose of the system. Yeah, so what makes trust, especially rational trust, because there are different forms of trust there. There's affinity trust. I'm here, I'm your friend. You can trust me because maybe we can build, we've known each other for some time, but we can build on that friendship and be able to give, certain levels of, of benefit of doubt to one another because we know. Now, there's rational trust, which is the kind of trust that for example, you keep your money in the bank, and you can let the bank keep your money, not because you even know anybody there, but because you know that the conditions and the rules that exist in the bank makes you certain that your money will not be lost. That is the kind of thing that you want in institutions. If you're putting your trust in an institution, it is that you're sure that that institution is going to deliver the exact result that you want. But today, when trust has diminished, especially when young people are asking questions about elections, for example, not opportunities where people just fabricate consent, where people vote but they don't choose. Where we are kind of involved or caught up in a process of collective disempowerment, where we're just participating in the process, but at the end of the day, already, there's kind of some kind of predefined results and orientations. So these things sow doubt, in people. And when you find apathy arising, you should be able to look at where is it coming from. It is because of lack of trust. And this is because the lack of trust arises because the institutions have not done what the people are expecting them to do. And to me, to make sure that this trust is regained, it is to be able to orientate the actions of our institutions to begin to do the things that people want them to do. If you have justice, justice should be not only be done, but should be seen to be done. by our institutions, not the kind of politicized show that we saw recently with the process at the Constitutional Council. I think today many people have a perception, and I hear this from my electors, that from the populations in Cameroon, that the process was probably was a travesty, because instead of rendering justice, our courts are politicizing cases and making it difficult for citizens to really feel that there's justice that is being done. When elections are being organized and you start having questions around the kind of ballot papers, the questions around
ballot papers,
yes,
and signs and symbols.
And signs and symbols, and people, clashing over them. And, sometimes it creates a sentiment that maybe there is an intention to kind of weaken some candidates and, and empower others. But in fact, what is even more important is that citizens themselves what makes the process more legitimate is that citizens are participating in it. But when you find people begin to withdraw, you start asking yourself, is it that there are no rewards? There's nothing in them for them to gain the system?
Well, they will tell you that they don't trust the system.
Yeah, because, when people want to participate in the process, there is some kind of things that you look at. Number one is, what are the rewards in there for people? What is it? I know that people talk about the paradox of elections, where people vote for something even though they end up getting very tiny rewards from whatever they were voting for. But what is in there for people? That's the question you ask. Because many people are motivated by the rewards, the incentives. Yeah. So if people see that the incentives that they can get from participating in the process are those that are positive, they're going to participate. Even the quality of people who come in as candidates, if there's somebody who comes in there that incarnates what people want to see or want people, you're going to say that people are going to come. But if the quality of candidates that get in there are people that people perceive them to be corrupt, people perceive their past actions to not really speak well for them, people perceive them that they don't incarnate what the people want, there's no reason why people want to get in there. So I'm saying that there are many things that can be done to improve trust. And what we can do is, first of all, to make sure that our institutions are doing the things that people want those institutions to do. Justice, elections, economy, everything, schools. They should be doing the things that people want them to do, security-wise even. In certain, when I was mentioning the fact that some women will be shot up north, and they tell us that it's in Mali, then that's the official communications of the country saying to you that this is in Mali. How do you expect the people to trust that kind of institution? How do you expect people to know that you're deliberately lying to us? If you can deliberately lie to us, it means that you don't even respect us. You don't even think that we matter to the extent that we need to be rightly informed about the phenomena that are happening in our country. So I think that these are the kind of things that make people to lack trust in our institutions. And the way to start rebuilding this trust is to make sure that our institutions are responding to the needs that people want, responding to the expectations that people are asking. So that trust will naturally flow. And also, institutions should be incarnated by men and women who people can see as reflective of their of their aspirations. That kind of, how do I call it, symbolic representation, where you come there and you represent people not only because you look like them, but because you incarnate their expectations. Today we have all other kinds of representation where, we can see it's surrogate kind of representation. Somebody comes there because they were placed there by some other people, and so they come in a place of responsibility, but they're catering to the needs of a small cohort of people. That is not good. You find people who, they call this other kind of representation gyroscopic representation, where somebody comes and he's sent there by people, but he goes and does whatever he thinks is right for himself. He doesn't care about the opinion of the people, and that's not the kind of thing that we want. We don't want gyroscopic representatives. We don't want surrogate representatives. We want symbolic representatives who come there and incarnate the needs of the people. And that is the kind of thing that we are looking at in Cameroon today, to rebuild trust that can get people to start taking an interest back in politics, start wanting to participate in the development of a country. And that is something that can, if you enlist the potential of people in this collective process of rebuilding the country, the more you enlist, the more capacities and competencies you can build from to be able to build something stronger. But if you have one or two people who believe in the cause and the majority doesn't give a damn, what are you expecting to build? So it must be something that we help Cameroonians to revisit, to regain the trust in our institutions and by just revisiting certain things. Number one, be effective, be responsive, be respectful, be truthful, just respond to Cameroonians' needs, and that trust is going to be reestablished without any challenges.
All right, let's now delve into your vision for Cameroon. You just came back from the Northwest and Southwest regions over the weekend, where you went to Bamenda and Buea. Let's begin with this. What was the most striking thing that you saw in the two regions?
When I was saying to you a moment ago that we've been lied to, that things have returned to normal in these regions, it is also a mark of utter disrespect. Because when I went there, I was humbled by what people are going through. I could ride on the roads that people use every day. It was so disheartening. These regions are a shadow of themselves. Their voices have been silenced. Not even that they cannot speak, but that gunshots have overshadowed their voices. And I think today in those regions, when you go there, what you find is a story of desolation, a story of devastation, stories that tell of families that have been ruined. People have lost lives. I could see the signs of warfare in the region. I could see the abandonment that is the result. Because when there is a conflict like that, there's no way that you can bring any other form of development. The roads have been abandoned. People are just living in desperation and everything. So this is what I saw. And I told them that my first priorities would be to change this kind of experience. My first engagement in the first 100 days will be to end this conflict. And this is one of the key messages I had for those regions, that if they give me the chance, I am going to, in the period of 100 days, first 30 days I have very clear engagements, the next 30 days I have very clear engagements, the next 30 I have very clear engagements, and the last 10 clear engagements to be able to come out of this crisis. Because it is a crisis that has dragged on for too long. And I believe that the welcome that I had in those regions, the enthusiasm, I just want to take this opportunity to thank the people of Buea and Bamenda for the welcome that they gave me. That was a very enthusiastic, wonderful welcome that I received from home. And I just want to thank you, because it tells a different story. It tells of a story of hope, that no matter what has happened to us for the past 8 years, we can still look to the future with hope and to seize this opportunity to make a difference. I just want to invite you to not only be at that level where we welcome me, but to accompany me all through this process, so that at the end of the day, we can be able to win this thing. We can be able to win this thing. As you people were telling me, we'll go take that share. We'll go take that share. We'll be able to win this thing and make the change that we all are looking forward to having. So this is what I feel, and I want to say that, what I saw is beyond just, stories of resilience. I also find people who have expectations, who have dreams, who have hopes, but these hopes have been shut. I see people who feel that they can bring much to bear on the country in terms of making it to grow. I found young people who have come from the diaspora, but who still believe that there's something possible in those zones, who live from the United States and are currently there now. I met some of them who are there and who believe that it is possible still to build something even in the middle of that. So these are the stories of hope and resilience that exist, and I feel that we can only amplify the stories if we're given the chance to do so from October onwards.
All right, you just spoke about your 100-day engagement for the Anglophone crisis. Can we briefly break it down for us?
So in the first 30 days, the first thing I'm doing is to officially recognize that this problem exists. We've seen our ministers tell us that there's nothing that exists as an Anglophone problem. We've seen them. I'm sure that you yourself, you've hosted some of them on your platforms. They tell you that the problem does not exist. When you say a problem does not exist, you don't have a solution for it, you see. But I'm going to begin by fully acknowledging that that problem exists. It is a historical problem. It's tensions that arise from judicial and education challenges. So that is the first measure. Number two is that I'm going to release all the prisoners, all the political prisoners from prison, everyone who is jailed. I've had the opportunity to visit them in jail, and I'm saying that if I'm given a chance on October 12th, I'm releasing all of them. This is a clear commitment, and I'm going to do. First 30 days. First 30 days. Number 3 is that I'm going to declare a national day of mourning for everyone who has died in this conflict. Soldiers, civilians, and separatists. We're going to recognize that these people didn't just die for nothing. This country, it was part of the history of this country that was being written. But, that history needs to be honored. Me, I've had people, my junior brother who died in the conflict as well. And so I can understand the pain that many families have gone through. So if we recognize that, many people would actually have the opportunity to even properly bury their people or properly make a funeral for their people, most of whom they don't even know the whereabouts today. So in the first 30 days, those moves are going to be done. The next thing is to, in the next 30 days, from the 30 to 60, we're going to convene a national conference to dialogue and reform the country. That conference is going to be very open and get everybody on board. Where it's a dialogue without preconditions, genuine dialogue that can get everyone who has been making claims, all the parties to this conflict, to come on the table. We sit down, face to face as Cameroonians. There is no need to bring somebody from outside. We can sit down and as brothers and sisters find a way to talk to ourselves and say, let us reason this thing together. It is a country we are trying to build. I tell people that our constitution was not given to us on Mount Sinai, carved in stone, where there's no edict that you cannot change from there. That constitution was made for us. We were not made for the constitution. If it's not working, we need to come back to it. And I mean, it was reformed was reviewed in 2008, just to extend the mandate of the president. What makes it impossible for us to reform the constitution today to solve an Anglophone crisis that has been existing for more than 8 years? So I think it is possible to touch the constitution and make things work for us. That said, we are also going to make sure that we can get to pass measures around, reform of the form of state. This debate is going to be open around what kind of form of state do we want. We have proposals in our vision, but this proposal is just our own perspective on the issue, right? But what should come out as a final thing is Cameroonians sitting down and agreeing that this is what we want to do, and then we take those measures and we implement them. So it is not Ateki Seta's vision, it is the people's vision about what needs to be done as far as this crisis is concerned. So I think that today, in fact, I'm still in the logic of my vision. I think that today there is a need for this particular debate to happen. Instead of saying that you cannot have this kind of conversations during a grand national dialogue, saying that certain topics are banned. We have to open a debate on decentralization, federalism, whatever. We have to, that debate is necessary so that we know how we can move forward as a country. That said, there are positions that I have to make very clear. I'm not the one to come and divide this country. I'm not the one to come to Cameroon and put it asunder. I'm here within the spirit of reconciliation, a spirit of making sure that we can revise and reform and reevaluate things so that we can get a system that is adapted, that works for everybody. Number 4, in fact, from the 6th year to the 90th day, we will make sure that humanitarian aid is delivered to people, refugees that are coming back, from the diaspora or from Nigeria and other countries that they have crossed into. We have to make sure that humanitarian aid is reaching even the internally displaced, who are so many in their numbers. Humanitarian aid can reach these people so that people can begin to reestablish their lives. I mean, we want to make sure that there is a kind of progressive demilitarization of the zone. The government can, in fact, my government is going to declare a unilateral ceasefire to say this whole thing has ended. We're no longer in war with our citizens. We're no longer at war with our citizens. We have ended it, and we hope that the other people, the separatists on the other side, will also reciprocate.
Exactly, because that's the one big potato for every political leader, including the current president.
But the thing
how do you handle the separatists and the hardliners who will tell you that it's either secession or nothing?
No, but those voices, I think, if people begin to see that the government is sincere, people are holding certain positions. It's a position, not it's just a position, and positions tend to change in conflicts. That position that people hold can change or can become the minority if the government on this other side is sincere. But I think that if there is good faith on this side of the government, if you declare unilateral ceasefire and say, we're ending this war, it is over, we want to focus on ameliorating the conditions of our people, and everybody is on board. Everybody is called to a dialogue. these voices that would probably still be existing. We cannot silence every voice. Those voices could still be there. But if they are not in important numbers, that when you've brought every other person on board, I think people will know what to do with such voices. Because I think that if people are in the logic of construction and you are seen as an agent of destruction, an agent who is coming to sow confusion and doubt to initiatives that people are collectively taking, and then you're the only one who is going to put yourself in that kind of vulnerable position. But we are saying that we are going to bring everyone on board so that we can construct this country with the points of view that come from all of us. It is not the president's point of view, it is the point of view of Cameroonians, and we are constructing a country that Cameroonians are going to live in. So what I'm saying is, we would be able to get this dialogue happen, get to declare unilateral ceasefire, and begin a progressive demilitarization of the zone. And then in the last 10 days, what we can do is to begin to set up structures that and systems that can ensure that they provide guarantees of non-recurrence.
Confidence building.
Yes, confidence building in such a way that what has happened in this region should never again in the history of Cameroon happen. Should never again happen. And so what are the guarantees that we are putting in place that this doesn't happen? The reforms themselves. You begin to get the reforms and recommendations that come from the national dialogue. You begin to make sure that we can have the boys who are fighting the bushes right now to get out and begin to seize new economic opportunities that can help them build their lives. This is what we're saying. And if you do that, you can actually expand the package that is within the DDR centers now to help people find different mechanisms to adapt to the new reality, which is a reality of peace, a reality of dialogue, a reality of consensus building. This is what we are proposing. And if we're able to do that, I believe that this crisis would take it, would just abate naturally.
Now, talking about the form of the state, what is your position? What's your vision for Cameroon?
I think that Cameroon should move from this current, state of decentralized, centralized, decentralized system. Because it's a kind of centralized decentralization, where resources, politically speaking, decentralization is there on the paper, in the law, it is there, but there is a lack of financial decentralization. Our municipalities still suffer from lack of access to financial resources that can permit them meet the objectives that they set for their people. Sometimes we say the budget that is dedicated for decentralization is 15% of the national budget, but there are councils that have never seen 2%. In fact, the way that the resources are even distributed is uneven. Yaoundé and Douala, they take the majority of of what FECOM has to offer to councils. It's about 30% in Yaoundé, I think a little bit less in Douala. And then FECOM itself uses 10% for administration of the institution. So what is left is just about 30% for the rest of the country. 30%. And you have roads to construct. You have water to provide to people. You have schools to build. Where do you expect that these councils are going to take money from? So it is important that we reorientate the action of government to make sure that we are providing the means for councils to meet the objectives that they set for development of their people, that they can effectively intervene in local development by expanding the budget. Now, this can be done within the context of a federation. I propose in my vision that Cameroon needs to move from a decentralized country to a federal state. Why? Because people think that within this framework, decisions can better be reached, right, at the local level. Because if governors are elected, they're elected on the basis of an agenda that they're going to follow that reflects the will of the people down there. Now, today with the current system, you have what we call upward accountability. People are accountable to those that have appointed them rather than to the people that they're serving. We want downward accountability, where power comes from below. And, it's a kind of bottom-up thing. Now, the governors, when they get elected, they're elected by a people that have given them the mandate. They are accountable to these people. They're not accountable to anyone above them anymore. So this reorientation of the forms of accountability can help people more focus on responding to the needs that people have, rather than always catering for whether you are going to remain there for 5 years or 10 years, and that remaining there is some sort of a reward because you've supported some individual. But I think that today, what we need is to be able to make sure that power can effectively reach down to the people, the power of economic and political decision making. There's no need for a road to be constructed and acquired. I talked to people in the Southwest region yesterday. One of the participants at the local branch of PAL who attended the meeting said that in Akwaya, for you to be able to get to his village, you have to go through Nigeria.
You have to go through Nigeria.
Why is it that for him as a Cameroonian to go to his village, he has to pass through another country to get to his village? That's a question to ask. But if you're endowing councils, for example, with a budget of 2 billion francs, and I think I'll talk about that regarding my economic vision, each council is supposed to be endowed with a budget of 2 billion francs each. And that those councils have to provide what they call the minimum social package. The minimum social package is about providing, this is a concept that is borrowed from primary schools, where at the beginning of
the minimum package,
the minimum package for primary schools. But we need minimum package for our localities. The minimum package is water, roads, electricity, schools, and healthcare facilities. These 5 main things that constitute the minimum package will be the focus of our councils. The 2 billion francs that is given to them will be dedicated progressively in providing the elements of the minimum social package to make sure that we have roads that are practicable, in all seasons of the year. In some places, roads are cut off, and in the rain season, you cannot even go to these places. The price of transport fare changes with the season, with the weather. Whether if it's rain, more. If it's just from raining, then the price increases, and so on and so forth. So we want our councils to be effective in providing electricity to the people, and we can decentralize, the way that electricity is produced, is furnished to the people by making sure that we can get hydroelectric dams in all regions. All regions in Cameroon have the capacity to provide, to build hydroelectric dams. In the Northwest, it is possible. In the Southwest, it is possible. In the center, it's possible. Here in the littoral, even, there are already dams. In the South, it is possible, and so on. Even in the North, in Lagdo, it's possible. So we just need to get investments in this sector and get to really decentralize, the kind of actors that are involved in providing these necessities, so that they can provide necessities for basic necessities like this for Cameroonians, so that people can have access. If you don't have access to electricity, there's no way that you can say you're going to participate in the information economy. You cannot even charge your phone. How do you post online? You cannot, so it is very challenging. You cannot get into artificial intelligence and maybe blockchain and so on when you don't have basic supply of electricity. You cannot actually get into massive industrialization when you don't have basic supply of electricity, or even you don't have roads that can permit for the connectivity of these goods and services to the markets that they can reach and people can demand. So this is going to be the action of our local communities, dedicating to the production, the provision of things around the minimum social package. Education, same thing. Pass through to an educational style model that targets professional education, because today young people leave from schools without the capacity to have jobs, because the kind of education that they receive doesn't permit them to get recruited anywhere. So this kind of things our education system should prepare our young people for the market opportunities of tomorrow. But if they're not doing that today, then there is a challenge with the education system. So these are some of the things that we are proposing around improving, the well-being of Cameroonians, to make sure that Cameroonians can have standards of living that can permit for them to, have, care for their families, meet their basic needs, care for the education of their children, and even just have functioning resources to be able to lead their lives.
Let's talk about youth unemployment, which is a very complex and challenging issue affecting Cameroon.
Yeah.
What policies do you hope to tackle this very pressing problem?
Youth unemployment in Cameroon has different dimensions to it. It's a multifaceted problem. And if you need to understand where it is coming from. I just mentioned about the kind of education that we're receiving. Yeah. And this is a structural problem. Youth unemployment is a structural problem. Why? Because the kind of education that we receive in schools does not permit, or the kind of skills that our household supplies, are not the kind of skills that the industries need, because the households have spent time training kids in fields and that are not really in demand in the market. or they have prepared students in fields that don't lead to self-employment. And so what needs to be done in order to solve is a kind of long-term approach where you restructure the kind of education system that we have, making sure that we can create deliberately fields that can permit for the fields of the future that can permit for anyone who graduates to be able to fit somewhere. I take the example. If today we want surgeons who can do complex operations on the brain, on the eye, in the heart, and so on, or even on the spine, these are complex surgeries. If someone has these challenges, what they do is that they have to go to medical evacuation in other countries like India and so on. But if we want that in Cameroon, those kinds of operations begin to be done, which is also an employment, right? It's a kind of employment. What we do is create departments in universities that can permit for people to study these things. And the next 5 years, we have surgeons that can operate on the heart of Cameroon, and we can send them out there, to the hospitals, so that in any hospital in Cameroon, you can have a specialist who can operate on these things, instead of allowing us, our talented young people who can do these things, not even have that opportunity, but that when people fall sick, they start going out of the country. I believe that this is one of the ways that we can create jobs, by deliberately creating departments that can permit for us to meet the needs that people are asking. When people have, for example, suffering from non-communicable diseases like diabetes, like high blood pressure, all of these things, these are diseases that people go through a lot to be able to treat in Cameroon. Sometimes the dialysis machines are not even there. You go to a hospital and you want to do dialysis, they tell you the machine is not working, and it's just one center that even has it. So people have to go to other places or struggle to go out of the country to be able to treat themselves. What we are even proposing that we can get some kind of incentive. I call it the Setamol funds. It's not paracetamol or Setamol. So Setamol funds are created to invest in reference hospitals that can accompany people who have these non-communicable diseases and who are spending a lot to treat them, to be able to get access to these treatments for a very lower cost in order to optimize and prolong their lives. So these are some of the things that you want to make sure that they are being provided to people, so that people can lead lives that are better than what they are currently experiencing. So that is that, and I believe that there are so many other things that we can do, but I believe you can make other proposals, to Cameroonians as regards, not only the employment, youth employment, but also how we can get to women, to get emancipated. We are proposing that we have a bank for women that can help them access loans without the challenges of having landed property and all of that, because this is a question that affects women, and women also, they are young people, they are young women also who want jobs. So, but sometimes who can want to create jobs as well, but when they want to get loans to invest in their businesses, they don't have collateral security to be able to guarantee those loans. And so we're going to create a special bank that targets women especially, to say if you need a loan and you're a woman and you don't have landed property, the conditions would be different. They will no longer be requiring land or something, but they want some other kinds of guarantees. Yes, from you that can permit you to be able to get access to what you need as a loan, and you can invest in your businesses and so on. And so we are also thinking about creating what we call incubators in all regions of Cameroon. These are models that work elsewhere. In France, for example, there is what we call Station F. Comparing Cameroon and France is, these are two different countries that have, totally different economic realities. But there is a model there that I think can actually enable us, pick that kind of positive example. I could even leave that and look at another example in Seychelles. Seychelles is an African country, but they have something they call the Oasis ecosystem. The Oasis ecosystem permits for young entrepreneurs to be identified, brought together, taught how to write business plans, taught how to do market analysis, taught how to be able to generate different kinds of business ideas. And this Oasis ecosystem helps them in terms of research, market analysis, and to be able to help them build their businesses from scratch. Many people think that to become an entrepreneur is a very easy thing. It's not. You have to be prepared to be an entrepreneur. You have to be able to make sure that you take the risk that an entrepreneur can take. And if you are accompanied in doing this, you find that it becomes easier for you to be able to create businesses and sustain them. The sad thing today is that many businesses that young Cameroonians create today, businesses don't last for up to 1, 2, 3 years. They don't last, and the businesses are down. Why is it so? Because the culture of business sustenance has not been maintained. And so you find that creating this kind of incubators permits for young businesses to be able to get on board, young entrepreneurs to be able to get on board, get the training that is necessary, get the government funding, seed funding that is necessary to be able to create their businesses, and get the accompaniment that is necessary to make their businesses succeed and outlast the usual period where businesses are calculated to fail. We need to pass a law. The Startup Act in Cameroon is a law that many people are asking for to be able to stimulate the sector. You know, the startup law doesn't exist right now, but it's a best practice you find that exists elsewhere, and we need to be able to, you know, to guide the process, to make sure that startups can actually have access to certain kind of support. In Station F that I cited a moment ago, it's a place in France that has entrepreneurs like 1,500. They come in the same spot. They have different kinds. I went there and I saw 3D printed shoes that an entrepreneur who has worked with athletes who are running knows the kind of, you know, challenges and pain that athletes will, and then they start trying to invent shoes that respond to those needs. I saw 3D printed shoes that have specific characteristics that athletes can use. I mean, they're displayed. And there's somebody who's an entrepreneur who has this idea. But at the same time, in Station F, you have banks stationed in there that if you have some idea that they can see right there, and that is promising,
it's funded on the spot.
The banks can be able to just jump on it and, you know, pick it up and invest on it and make it grow. And then government offices are also there in Station F to be able to make sure they can look at the policy, you know, stimulations that they can give to make sure that entrepreneurs that they have can succeed. These are best practices that you can, you know, pick on and, you know, get to these pepiniers, what we call in French pepiniers, incubators that we have in our different regions that are going to be established. This is what we propose as an economic plan to be able to help young people develop jobs for themselves or even create jobs for others. And so on and so forth. Yeah. All
right. Before we go, let's talk about one of the hottest issues on ground, and that's the issue of the coalition.
Yeah.
Of course, some candidates have been gathering for the past weeks, and the PAL is one of those parties that have been putting their heads together to see how they can seek a coalition. We know that is something which voters are hungry for. They want to see a coalition.
Yeah.
But so far, it seems like there's a deadlock. What exactly is happening in this coalition at this point? Where are we?
No, I think there, just to say, there could be a coalition. There could be. Because the preconditions for that are currently going on. Preconditions, because there's conversations happening. When we finished in Yaoundé last time, when people were really expecting a coalition to come out, there was, we set up a committee to work on the common program for the coalition, to look at our different programs.
Yeah, programs and then draft a unified one.
Yes, draft a unified program that we can present to Cameroonians. This is what a coalition is going to work on. Because, mind you, a coalition, for it to happen, a coalition is supposed to, it's not the idea that one party is absorbing everybody who is coming, you know, to join, you know, the coalition. It's not implementing, in fact, it's not one party that is absorbing us if we let one person to be the coalition head. It is not even the idea that we are coming together to implement the program of this party or the person that we are sending up as the coalition head. What we're saying is that the coalition comes together, looks at the common, even in our ideological differences, we look at the things that we all agree on. We all agree on the fact that the electoral code should be reformed. We all agree on the fact that the constitution should be reformed, at least to limit the mandate of the president to, you know, one mandate renewable once, you know. We all agree that the Anglophone crisis should be resolved. We all agree that many other things. So we can come together and look at those points that we all agree on. We say, this is what the coalition is going to be working on, and this is what we are presenting to you as citizens. And so this was not done. That particular response, homework was not done. And so that is why, at the end of the day, we created this committee to say, okay, work on this program. And so we'll come back. But that was happening when Elections Cameroon had its own processes too. They gave us deadlines about when to. So we had all to confirm the ballot papers of our parties. We had all to confirm the colors of the pictures and so on. So we had to confirm those because we didn't know the outcome of the coalition. You see, to ask somebody to withdraw from a presidential race, to cede it to somebody else, it's a very serious decision to make.
Yeah.
You know, so it is important that there is these clarifications that are done. We're not coming to be absorbed by one political party. The political party must agree to us. The person must agree.
There must be a consensus
that you're only going to implement the agenda that the coalition has given you to implement.
Yeah.
This is the idea and I believe that once these things are clarified by the technical committee, we as candidates have been asked to withdraw from the committee activity so that they themselves can look at it and then only come back to say, okay, we evaluate what the committee is proposing and say, okay, is this what Cameroonians want? If Cameroonians want, we form a coalition around it. This is it. And I'm saying that we want a coalition not only of the candidates, we also are asking a coalition of the citizens. Because if you make it to look like it is only a candidate's thing.
You're talking about coalition of citizens, and that brings me to what we see on social media. So many disgruntled Cameroonians will tell you, no coalition, no vote.
No vote, yeah. And I'm saying that citizens should coalesce, at least. Because if we coalesce as candidates and citizens come to us in dispersed ranks, what is the use of the coalition? So it is not something that should be assumed. I refuse that coalition on the side of the citizens will just happen. Naturally. I refuse to accept that. I want citizens to have it in their minds. I want citizens to have it in their minds that coalition is also their responsibility, that they should come together and, be determined right from now speaking, be determined to say, when 12th of October comes, we are determined to bring change, to make sure that change can happen in this country. That is the responsibility of the citizens. They must have this as a fixated thought, so that when that day comes, they know that they're coming to bring the change, and they know that we at least can have somebody who on our side can be able to represent the citizens as well. So I believe that a coalition would happen. This is the position of my party, and I believe that we are sensitive to the cries of the people. If the people want that coalition should happen, we must move away from this culture where the government turns a deaf ear to people, and if we want to show that we are bringing something new, we must start listening to them. And I believe that this is. But the other thing is also just to make sure that I can clarify on this. We don't want a coalition of the weak. When you don't militate among your party base and generate sufficient support and mobilize, and you're looking at the coalition as an off-ramp to just switch yourself into a coalition so that you can get maybe some benefits out of it, I think it is going to make for a weak coalition. That is why I encourage citizens to support us. I just finished a tour from the Northwest and Southwest. The idea was to meet the militants of the PAL there and begin to make sure that they start the preparatory work of mobilizing during, this is our party basis. We have a right to prepare them for the elections and so on. So by the time that we start talking about coalition in a serious way, and then you're bringing on board these people that you have mobilized, and then imagine everybody else doing this, the coalition is going to be a powerful one. It will be perceived by the public as a powerful one and will generate more momentum than to say we don't mobilize, we just wait for coalition talks to happen, and then we come later on to just join it because we feel like it's an easy solution. No, we must fight for it, and I want to encourage everybody to support us to fight for coalition, especially because we would like to do mobilization in our different contexts, so that when we are coming into a coalition, we bring something strong on board. This is how you do it. Because if you stop supporting us and always saying no coalition, no vote, I tell you, you may end up with a weak coalition that you even regret why a coalition was formed. So we need to support individual parties, support us now, and let us mobilize, build the momentum that is necessary to be able to get into a coalition as a stronger force than what it currently is. So this is what I would say to you. And to say that when you want a coalition, do not be fixated on a particular candidate, saying that if this person is not the head of the coalition, then you're not supporting the coalition. This is one of the things I hear, citizens, we want a coalition by this candidate, we want a coalition by that candidate, as though that candidate alone can actually, survive if they don't have this kind of coalition. It is important that we remain humble in the way that we approach this thing, in saying that it is not a coalition of your candidate, it's a coalition of Cameroonians coming together to try to solve a problem that has, hijacked our lives for 40-something years now. So it is important that we have a very level-headed conversation around this and help us deliver the victory that we are asking for on the 12th of October.
All right. Thank you very much, Ateki Seta Caxton, for talking to us. It was a pleasure having you on the program.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure, Mr. Peter. I'm so grateful.
And that was presidential candidate and flag bearer of the PAL political party, Ateki Seta Caxton, talking to us on In-Depth. We thank you very much for watching. Until next time, bye-bye. Stay with us on programs on Dash TV.